I'm ready to go. You're ready to go. Well, let's go. All right. Welcome to the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee for Thursday, April the 4th. Mr. Clerk, if we could get a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Members of the committee, Deputy Mayor Campbell.
Present.
Councillor Palladino. Present. Councillor Carlson.
Present.
Councillor Parker.
Here.
In addition to the members of the committee, we have Councillors Middleton, Hope, and Crowson. Quorum established.
Okay. City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. City of Lethbridge is also the home to the Métis Nation of Alberta. We will begin with the adoption of the agenda. Mr. Clerk, are there any additions to the agenda?
If there's agreement from the committee, there is a submission that was received on the item. So if there's no objections, we would add that to the agenda as amended.
Does anyone object? I see none. So this is from Councillor Palladino. Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee of April the 4th, 2024 be adopted as amended. Councillor Palladino.
I would call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? All right. Passes. From Councillor Parker. Be it resolved that the minutes of Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee held on March 7th, 2024 be approved and the chair and city clerk designate be authorized to sign the same, and further be it resolved that the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee receive as information the 2024-0404 status of initiatives with the following amendments. That the date of return indoor court multipurpose space and audit analysis be deferred to the May 2nd, 2024 meeting of the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee. Councillor Parker.
If there's no changes that need to be needed, I would just call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? All right. We have a presentation, and we have from Carrie Dahl, Fund Development and Community Engagement Coordinator from Woods Homes regarding the mental health and mental illness. Step forward, please. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. And thank you for hearing me today. You're actually quite a difficult group to get to with something like this, so I'm happy to be here. So Woods Homes is putting forward a proposal to paint 2 crosswalks in the city for Mental Health Month. So we've got a bit of a presentation on mental health, mental illness, and what's the difference. Next slide, please. So mental health and mental illness are often used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. Mental health is a concept similar to physical health. It refers to a state of well-being. Mental health includes our emotions, feelings of connection to others, our thoughts and feelings, and being able to manage life's highs and lows. Problematic substance abuse is sometimes linked to poor mental health or mental illness. It can be a coping strategy for untreated trauma, pain, challenging thoughts or emotions, and other health symptoms. Next slide. I think next page. One more. Okay, so who is affected? Everyone has mental health and will experience challenges regarding their mental health and well-being, but not everyone will experience a mental illness. Mental illness indirectly affects all Canadians at some point through their own experience or that of a family member, friend, or colleague. In any given year, 1 in 5 people in Canada will personally experience a mental health concern or illness. Mental health affects people of all ages, education, income levels, and cultures. However, systematic inequalities such as racism, poverty, homelessness, discrimination, colonial and gender-based violence, among others, can worsen mental health and symptoms of mental illness, especially if mental health supports are difficult to access. So living with mental health challenges, environmental factors play an important role in our mental health. Access to safe and affordable housing, meaningful education, employment, leisure activities, the support of the community, access to land and nature, freedom from violence, and good access to healthcare and mental health services all support good mental health. Stigma and discrimination attached to mental illness and substance use problems present a serious barrier not only to diagnostic and treatment, but also to access to employment, housing, and other basic necessities. Stigma both creates and deepens social marginalization. The symptoms of mental illness can be treated and very often managed effectively with the right supports. People with mental illness can thrive. So the cost of mental health, without the right supports, people with mental illness and substance use problems, their caregivers and their families can experience great suffering. We need a robust mental health care system with a wide range of programs and services, including health promotion and wraparound supports like housing and employment services to ensure that people receive the preventative care, treatment, and the supports they need to recover and thrive. There is an economic cost when mental illness and substance use problems go untreated and when we fail to invest in promotion, prevention, and other support services. The economic cost of mental illness to the Canadian healthcare and social support system was projected at $79.9 billion in the year 2021. So the plan is, each year, CMHA designates a week in May as Mental Health Week. Woods Homes dedicates the full month of May to raising awareness, reducing the stigma, and showing support for good mental health. Our mission statement is simple. Woods Homes builds good mental health and well-being so everyone can thrive in their community. This May, we are investing in our communities. Through multiple platforms and elements, Woods Homes is making it clear that mental health matters. We are approaching you today to help us spread this message, a statement written boldly across 2 downtown crosswalks, #MentalHealthMatters. Our message is clear, it is nonpartisan, and it encompasses our entire community. We want to paint these 2 crosswalks with the support of the City of Lethbridge to make a statement and to show those impacted by mental health challenges that hope is here, we see you, and we know you are important, and we are investing in spreading the message. We want these crosswalks to open the minds of those passing by to take a moment and realize that mental health impacts all those around us. And with some perspective and understanding, we can really make a change towards a community where mental health matters. Mental illness is known as the invisible illness. So join us to make this highly misunderstood invisible illness visible. Public outcomes. So when you type in #MentalHealthMatters into your cell phone or computer, you open a world of facts, support, engagement, resources, motivation, and hope. Allowing this type of public art helps to create important conversation and expand thought, helps to express the values of the community, creates an elevated sense of awareness for community members and visitors. It contributes to a community's identity, fosters community pride and a sense of belonging, and enhances the quality of life for its residents and visitors. It can foster cooperative dialogue and bring about much-needed solutions and change. So with the support of the Downtown BRZ and the City of Lethbridge Transportation Engineering Manager, Woods Homes will create 2 designated Mental Health Matters crosswalk on 3rd Avenue South at 3rd Street South. This project would take place at the end of May or at the end of April or early into May, weather dependent. And Woods Homes is willing to absorb the costs of this project, estimated at $3,100, which will cover the labor and traffic control for the installation, as well as labor and traffic control for the removal after 1 year. We will also be supplying the appropriate paint and stencil to complete the project, sourced from 2 local businesses. And for our communication strategy, Woods Homes plans to issue a press release pending approval, and we invite the mayor, city representatives, and members of the Downtown BRZ to join us for a ceremonial revealing of the crosswalks. We will also share on social media platforms and offer photography footage of the crosswalks, which would be supplied for use to the city as well as the Downtown BRZ. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may well just hold there for a minute here while I ask if there's anybody else who wants to make any presentations. So I see none, and I will now open it up for questions from the committee here. We'll start with Councillor Palladino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again. This question might be best answered by Mr. Sanchez. Is there a city policy on painting crosswalks?
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for the question. Currently, there is no policy. The policy is, it has been added to the list. There is a list of policy that currently the city is working on, and there are quite a few in front of this. So we don't have a city policy to approve this, but our recommendation is to actually moving forward to have all the requests that we get going through that policy in order to ensure that we have all the resources and also that we have a consistent approach.
Okay. And secondly, do you have an idea how many requests we receive, the city receives within, a month, monthly or yearly, or for typical crosswalk painting?
So regarding crosswalks, painting, we don't receive that often requests. This will be one other than one that is a permanent location that we have on 3rd Avenue, but we don't receive many of those. What we do encourage is every time there is a request in terms of fixed locations or anything different than lighting City Hall, we always encourage applicants that that's an option that is free, is available. They can just do the request online and they can light up City Hall, and many organizations, that's the way they decide to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation, Ms. Dahl. One quick question, and actually, first, if I can, through you, Mr. Chair, to the city clerk or designate. You said there was a submission added. Has that been added to the agenda? I can't see it, but maybe I need to reload.
My mistake, I'll email it to you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Question, Ms. Dahl. Crosswalks, I think Mr. Sanchez said we only have the 3rd Avenue ones. I believe we also did one, if I recall, for the University of Lethbridge on their anniversary. Was anything else considered? I was a big proponent of crosswalks back in the day, but our experience with them has been, I'm just going to be honest, it's been brutal. They deteriorate so quickly. Within a day or two, they're kind of ugly and shabby. I'm wondering if any other ideas were bandied about or thought about. I know that the Allied Arts Council has done a utility box wrapping program. We also have flags, standards on our light flags. We have brackets, on our light poles for various flags for organizations. Were there any other options looked at? As I said, I used to love crosswalks, and then after 2 days, they just get so messy and dirty that they don't really achieve the purpose. Was anything else looked at that could be
We
utilized?
do other initiatives as well, and we do the Lighted Up Green. We actually have the water tower, the YMCA, the museum did last year. So this was just another step, because even with the light screen, it doesn't send the clear message. And that's what we want, is we want a very big, very bold statement. So I appreciate the flags and the utility boxes. I think that those are lovely, but I know with what we were trying to accomplish, that very bold, mental health matters, that Woods Homes believes that, and knowing the controversial with some of the crosswalks, we ensured that the message when we selected it remained very nonpartisan. It's not self-organization promoting. It's not a controversial topic. It's the one area that does affect everybody. So given our close location to 3rd Ave, just being down the street from us, and also part of the revitalizing downtown, I know that the area that we are in is a underutilized space that they're concerns of and wanting to bring more traffic to, especially walking traffic. So we thought the crosswalks would kind of meet all of those goals, with having it viewed more as like an art piece as well. As far as the sidewalks or the crosswalk deteriorating, it is an unfortunate thing. We all love living in Alberta, and we all loathe living in Alberta based on the weather that switches each day. But in reality, the message will still be there, even if it's deteriorated, just like most of our mental health day to day, it will deteriorate. But I think even the installation process, the press that we can recruit around this, I already had Global News come to our office this morning to discuss the initial proposal. It will still leave its mark that the city of Lethbridge understands that mental health matters, and mental health is a major component to what is going on in our city.
Thank you for that. And final question, if I can, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure who can answer this. I know Mr. Lowen is online and maybe Mr. Sanchez, so I'll just ask it through you to whoever can answer it. And interesting enough, it was the question that was sent through in the attachment, because I had the same question this morning at another meeting I was at about the legality of crosswalks, and somebody said, aren't they provincially mandated now that they have to be the zebra crossings or whatever they're called? Do we have any information on that, or is that sort of just up to our discretion?
Mr. Lowen, do you want to answer that?
I'm not aware of any requirement that would prohibit us from doing this as long as we're in accordance with all the standards that Mr. Sanchez's group would be responsible for in terms of not confusing, not a distraction to traffic and those things. But the caveat is I haven't looked if there's any recent change to regulations. I can do that now, and perhaps Mr. Sanchez has more information than I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanchez.
Yes, I just quickly checked with the team, and as Mr. Lowen explained, there is no, as long as they are clear in terms of safety, there is no requirement that they have to be the zebra style. The only requirement has to be that they are not a distraction for pedestrians and for vehicles, and that's what Mr. Ali worked with his team in order to have a design that meets the criteria that they have for the safety of the road.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ms. Dahl, you were saying that this is going to last a year, and you're going to, for lack of a better word, dismantle this crosswalk. Is your intention to maybe look at this again next year and maybe do this every year, or is this a one-off, would you say?
In speaking with Mr. Ali, he did say that this would be a one-off for this year. He said that there is new policy in the works. So he did already give us that. He said that we would be able to apply, but there would definitely be more policy and criteria. Right. He was pretty confident that we already are meeting most of what that would look like anyway, with the nonpartisan, non-distracting message that's going out. But yes, for right now, our goal is this year. And much like anything else, assess, how that was received, and given new policy creation, seeing if down the line it might be something we look at. But at this time, we're prepared that it's just going to be this one time.
Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Most of my questions have been answered with the exception of one. Woods is not only in the city of Lethbridge, it's also in other cities. What kinds of experiences have you had with trying to convince councils in Calgary or others to paint a crosswalk indicating mental health matters?
We are the flagship for Woods for this. I know that they had the similar plan, but it fell through previous in Calgary. I think we are going to set what they will try to follow. In Calgary, they have actually been able to achieve a proclamation instead. So we're kind of on different things. That May is Mental Health Month with Woods in Calgary. So as far as Woods Homes, this Lethbridge will be the flagship for the sidewalk.
Okay, and last piece to that is, what do you hope to gain from this? I mean, greater awareness, I presume, but the location that you've proposed is, I wouldn't suggest is completely isolated, but it's substantially more isolated than some others. What do you hope to gain from this in terms of traction?
We do. We just want awareness, and just the whole point of this month is to bring awareness to the work that is needed. And it's not just our organization, it's so many community serving organizations in the city. It's an important message for all of us to have people, businesses, everybody have mental health on their minds. So this isn't a fundraiser for us. This is one that actually costs us money that we're willing to put in. We've chose the location because we wanted to create more distance between, what's already out there for the crosswalks, and to also work with the BRZ and to try to bring, to some traffic and some conversation around that end of downtown. We're kind of in an area that's pretty low key right now, which is, it's helpful, but we're just hoping that people will, if they're walking downtown, might come down a little bit farther. It will help support there's a few businesses in the area, but.
Okay. You've mentioned the BRZ twice. I don't see anybody from the BRZ here today to support this.
Sarah Amy's wasn't available. She did send her letter of support, which was attached to the package. That she was unavailable to attend. I did meet with her 2 weeks ago. I showed her the diagrams and talked the whole presentation through with her. But yes, she was unavailable, so she did send her letter of support.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Croson.
Thank you, Chair. I know some of my question is going to reiterate what everybody else has said, because when we were looking at this, we were thinking there are more ways you can do this in different ways, and the crosswalk is certainly one. Since you're putting it in May, it's mostly going to be there for the summer. But is there something else you'd like to see the city help you with on this? If this is approved, is there anything else you'd also like to see?
At this time, no. We have our Light It Up Green campaign, and that's the biggest, message, and that's the biggest thing is just the city is always willing to do the lights for us, and we appreciate that, even with the Y that goes through the city as well. So having that level of support, we have a great working relationship with the city. We have lots of our programs are funded through the city, so we're not really looking for anything else. We just are asking for the approval so we can get this checked off our list.
And yeah, you're willing to completely pay for it. Mr. Sanchez has said there's no accident increases or anything like that around these. We don't see this as a danger. Okay, thank you.
Just to Mr. Sanchez, just briefly, as we've heard, this is completely paid for by Woods Homes. Is there any operational costs that the city might have to incur over the course of a year, or is it just whatever is there is there?
Thanks for the question. Yes, the proposal that has been put forward includes the cost for installation and also removal after the year. There is no other additional cost. What we want to do with the policy that we're working on is that in those ones that they want to have a permanent location, there is an operational cost to this. That cost every time this is probably fading or there is a mark on top of it or whatever the case may be, there is a need to repair and replace and do constant life cycle. So the policy will address all those and will include the cost to maintain them for perpetuity. The other thing too is talking to the team. Typically we look at the locations based on if it's a local collector, what type of road and what the implications are for safety. Most likely we don't encourage them on arterials because of the high volume of traffic, but we look at each one of them as an ad hoc and depending on the situation, how they work.
Final question for you, Mr. Sanchez, is do you have an idea of when a new policy would be brought forward?
Yes, I don't have an exact date. As I mentioned before, we have a number of policies that are ahead of this and they are being worked on. So I don't anticipate this being completed this year. Most likely will be by the end of next year. We're going to have a policy because we're trying to combine other elements that also align with this. As we spoke before, it's not only about crosswalks, but it's also about lighting City Hall, it's about flags around the city, etc. We want to make sure we use all of those into consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question just that popped up when we talked about the Lighting Green campaign. City Hall is on the list, I'm assuming?
Yeah, City Hall is on May 7th, which is the official day for National Child and Youth Mental Health.
Excellent, thank you. We also now have new lighting at the Yates Center. I'm not sure if anyone from city administration knows if that can be added. I think the more buildings lit green, the better. So I'm just wondering if that's a possibility, unless there's something else in there that takes precedence. I don't know if anyone can answer that, but just something.
I can bring that up with our communication teams and see what is the process for sure, so I will take a note.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Final question, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sanchez indicated that a policy would probably not be likely forthcoming this year. I was bringing forward a motion that says about Q4 of this year to have the policy come forward to a governance committee. Perhaps we'll change that to Q1 2025.
That
Mr.
sounds,
Sarsfield?
yep, we're doing that, yep.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from my colleagues here? I see none. Be it resolved that everything from here on goes to governance. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, you can sit down. Looks like no one's going to be asking any more questions, unless it's a governance question. I have a resolution from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council number 1 approve the request of Woods Homes to create 2 temporary designated mental health matters crosswalks on 3rd Avenue South at 3rd Street South, with total estimated project costs of $3,100 to be absorbed by Woods Homes for traffic control, labor, materials, installation, and the removal after 1 year, as the final crosswalk painting and recognition project for external organizations. And 2, direct administration to prepare a council policy regarding the development of decorative crosswalks and present to the Governance Standing Policy Committee by 01/2025, including options such as, but not limited to, A, criteria with an assessment matrix for approving proposed decorative crosswalks, B, length of time for a decorative crosswalk to be in place, C, timing and deadlines, and D, all costs associated with the development, installation, maintenance, and removal of the decorative crosswalk to be borne by the requesting organization. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if my colleagues have any questions on the resolution as presented.
I see Councillor Middleton Hope. Oh, Councillor Croson's first.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Carlson, for bringing the motion forward. And I realize this policy is supposed to be looking very much at decorative crosswalks, but I wonder if it wouldn't be a better thing if administration is looking at this to make it more wholesome and to have it look at different ways that commemorations can be done, whether it's through signage, whether it's through lighting, whether it's through, to do it in a cohesive manner rather than just focusing on crosswalks. I wonder if that might just be a better use of administration's and then council's time.
And thank you, Councillor. I was thinking the same thing when I was listening to Director Sanchez. He sort of mentioned that this would be prepared in conjunction with various policies regarding flags, etc. And so maybe it's best if he answers the question if we need a standalone crosswalk or if it should be sort of more holistic and do any type of commemorative.
Mr. Sanchez is ready to answer that question.
Yes, I will say that at the end of the day, we will look at all the different elements, and as I mentioned before, it could be that it's only one policy that address all the different ways to commemorate or to do a highlight to a specific date. Having the motion like it is today is at least giving us the direction from council, once this is approved by City Council, to go ahead and work on this, and we may come back and ask to at that time to have only one policy that will have all the elements and that will meet the criteria of any other requirements that we have. So we can either change it now or we can leave it as it is, and we will definitely take into consideration not only crosswalks but other elements that can be used.
My suggestion would be to change it now, just because we around this table know what the conversation was, but anybody reading that would not necessarily know.
Would an appropriate amendment, Councillor Crowson, and I know that the section 2 does pretty much deal completely with crosswalks, but if we just added an E and any other commemorative aspects, including flags, utility box wrappings, etc., also be considered, would that be enough rather than, I just don't know how to wordsmith the whole thing right now.
I'm not on the committee, so I won't be voting, but I think that would cover it. It at least shows that you weren't saying just limit it to this if there's other options.
Mr. Starsfield, you have a thought.
So I have a thought, and I will tell you that I appreciate the sentiment, but flags should and always will be kept separate because it's a very complex policy. But we could amend it in some way. So if you give us a moment, we'll come up with some wording similar to what you just suggested.
Excellent. Maybe as people are wording, I see city manager may have a thought, and I'm glad he's here because I was about to ask him or Mr. Sanchez if even Q1 2025 was appropriate. I just didn't want to put any.
That was a perfect segue, Councillor. That's exactly what I was going to weigh in on is proportionate to complexity is time. And so with the complexity, there's some engagement that's required, and there are a number of priority policies already in the queue. So I can, with a fair degree of confidence, say not going to happen for Q1 based on the increase in complexity. So I think it will be later next year, and I can't gauge that right now, but in 2025 is the best I can say. It might be Q2, Q3, 2025. Because we want to do the appropriate engagement and discussion, and just as Mr. Sarsfield indicated with flags, okay, yep, nope, that one needs to be. But if we're looking at other aspects, what we need to consider and what engagement is required.
And thank you for that. I appreciate that because I was thinking the same thing, and then I thought what I'd like, no later than Q3 2025, just so that it's in. If this council is directing it to come forward, this council should be the one to ratify it or not. So, Mr. Sarsfield, maybe we'll change that to no later than Q3 2025.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Sarsfield is in agreement. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Thank you, and this might be a friendly amendment to the mover, although I am also not a voting member of this SPC. I'm thinking, Jeff, it might simply just be a referral from this SPC to council to approve this one initiative. All of the other ancillary pieces and so forth, we can add on to that ad nauseum. At the end of the day, it's going to take some time for administration to be able to work through this, to identify all of the intricacies in terms of lighting and every other possible permutation. So can I just suggest that maybe we just deal with this one item that says, either we approve as this subcommittee, or this SPC rather, approves or does not approve and recommends to council to approve this one-off?
Mr. Sarsfield suggests we might want to split it. And Mr. Sanchez has a thought as well.
I just wanted to say that what I would like to see is, I do agree, we need to have a motion to approve this as a one-off. And this not different than what we did recently with some equipment requests that we had for buses. This is the last one before we have the policy, but it's important to have that another clause, even if it's voted separately, to direct administration to work on this. And when it comes to the wording, it could be to the crosswalk or any other policy that is needed in order to commemorate. So we do a lump sum of all of those that can be one policy, or as Mr. Sarfield mentioned before, it could be separate policies depending on the type of asset or request that is being done.
Councillor Middleton Hope?
Yeah, I just think it's confusing, the issue, and I don't think that's what the presenters came for. What they came for is to get approval from this
Right.
Standing Policy Committee on one particular issue. So I'd like to certainly recommend that we divide that, deal with this one issue, deal with the other issues at another time.
Councillor Carlson, are you good with that?
Thank you, Councillor Middleton Hope. I agree. It is muddying the water at this moment, but I also agree that it is nice to sort of let folks know that we will be developing a policy. So if we removed all of number 2, and this is a question to Mr. Sarsfield, and then we recommend item 1 to council, at that council meeting, because then we would have time between now and then, probably 3 weeks, to actually craft a motion arising. Would that be possible?
According to Mr. Sarsfield, we've already done that. And I think the suggestion is that we just split the vote at this time. Is that?
Split the motion.
Yeah, sorry. Well, always those governance people with your words.
Yes, but I think what Councillor Middleton Hope was saying, and I agree, is let's not bother with point 2 at the moment.
Okay, I think Mr.
Or just make 2, just make 2 vague enough that you can set a vote.
Mr. Sarsfield is composing as we speak. Oh, he's done it, okay. Oh, all right. Okay. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
So do you want to split it, or do you want to just give a moment to read the resolution first?
Why don't you all get a chance to read it right now, and then the suggestion is that we split the vote? Split the resolution. Yeah, I think.
What was added?
So I just sent it to Councillor Carlson.
As the final crosswalk. Did I miss one? Oh.
That's the final crosswalk, painting and recognition. I think we get the gist of it.
Can you scroll down a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it.
Okay.
So are you okay with?
So do we have to vote on this or to split?
So the question is, do you want to vote on it as is, or do you want to
Split.
division and vote on each separately?
Okay. Members of the committee, do you want to vote as is, or do we want to vote on separate issues here? What's the thought? Councillor Parker?
I'm good with it.
Good with it? Councillor, that's 2. Councillor Carlson, just as is?
I think I'm good with it now.
Okay.
So with there being
We're not wasting any more time on it, which I think was Councillor Middleton Hope's concern. It was as well as mine. So if everyone's good with it, I'll just bring it forward as is.
No, we're not going to.
So there be no objection, the resolution will be presented as amended.
Okay, since there's no objection, this will be presented as amended. Okay? Everybody clear on that? I'll turn it back over to you, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Chair Campbell, and thank you, Ms. Dahl, for bringing this forward. I was a huge proponent of crosswalks when we first started looking at these sort of decorative or commemorative installations. I did encourage other organizations like the university to come forward using their own dollars, because I'm also cheap, to get these implemented. But the experience has been sort of not as pleasant as I had hoped. As Ms. Dahl said, our weather doesn't cooperate very well. So I think we should look at other ways to celebrate, but I also really think this is an excellent initiative, and I think something big and bold to raise awareness about mental health is very appropriate in our interesting times we are now living in. So I'm very much in support of this. I appreciate it coming forward, and I hope my colleagues will support it.
I also will be supporting the resolution as amended. I mean, to me, it was, why wouldn't you raise more awareness of mental health? Of course you would. And so, and plus the fact you're paying for it, so that the Scottish people amongst us are in total agreement of that. But also, I think the important thing is that we do need to develop a policy, which is what we're going to be doing in this case. So is there anybody else who would like to debate? Sounds like there isn't, so I will call the question. Everyone in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Dahl. Thank you, everybody. And that is today's fun. We adjourn the meeting.